So I want to do like an ode to Dolly to get started. Gosh, do we love Dolly Parton in our house. Everybody in my house knows Dolly because even my 3-year-old, because she sends us books every month through the United Way library.
Yeah.
So he knows this book is from Dolly. But I sort of like growing up like late 80s, early 90s. I think in the 90s we really had a thing in America where we were talking a lot about women and like this sort of like bimbo thing, right? Like just like pretty disrespectful, like the late night TV and all that kind of stuff. And so I think I always had this idea of Dolly just like not being a very serious person. And then like as I became an adult and started to learn a lot more about her, I'm like total like such a smart business person, an amazing songwriter. I mean, she's written like 5,000 songs. It's out of this world. She's like an amazing philanthropist. And I think she's just this really great example of how you can be joyful and funny and not take yourself too seriously and be kind, but also be like wicked smart. And so that's been a really fun thing to discover. I love there's like some quote that she has this great sense of humor about herself. And there's a famous quote from her where she says like, I'm not offended by all the dumb blonde jokes because I know I'm not dumb. And I also know I'm not blonde. And I'm like, that's so brilliant. Like she's so funny and has this way of like making the joke, making a better joke than somebody would make about her.
Yeah.
So I'm like so thrilled to see all of these songs that she's written for like this musical. Like I know 9 to 5 was pre-existing, but she wrote a lot of songs specifically for the musical, and to see those come to life on stage at this point in time where we're just like, does it get any better than Dolly? I'm not really sure that it does.
I know. I grew up in Tennessee, and close to Nashville. So I grew up on Dolly Parton, watching her on Hee Haw and watching her on all the country music awards, and also I loved the movie. I was of the generation where HBO first started, and 9 to 5 was on like every day for like 4 times a day, and so I would watch it as much as I could, and I loved it. Here You Come Again, all those great songs I grew up on, and went to Gatlinburg before there was a Dollywood, but there is a Dollywood in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is a theme park that's all about Dolly. And Jennifer, my wife, who's also a singer, sang with her on the opening weekend at Dollywood. Wow. And so we have this amazing picture of, and this is the early 90s. So, the hair was huge anyway, on normal people. So, but on Dolly Parton, it was huge. And then on Jennifer Marcum, who was from Texas, that hair was, the closer to, the higher the hair, the closer to God, I think is the thing was. Yeah. And so the pictures are, it's all hair and some faces. But it was, I loved Dolly Parton growing up, and like I said, and the movie was so great. And there's another quote where she says something about it takes a lot to make, it takes a lot to look this cheap or something like that. But I love too how she makes so much fun of herself, and she reinvents herself over and over, and has forever. I also grew up watching Still Magnolias, the movie with her in it, and she played Truvy, and she was so great in that too, and all of the movies that she did. She's always been very smart, and you're right how people have always kind of made dumb blonde jokes about her, but she rolls with those and then goes right to the bank. And this new album that she has out, this rock star album, where she sings a bunch of rock music with all the people who have done it, like the Eagles and Joan Jett and a bunch of other people, and it's fascinating. And and every other year there's a new holiday special with her on it, and I don't know how old she is. She's timeless to me. She's one of those people that you're thinking like, oh, she's always going to be here. Which is classic. I think, our first show was, before this one was Gypsy, which was written by Stephen Sondheim, who had the same kind of sense of timelessness too. And you think he's always going to be there, and then he's not. And then, so it's fascinating to think like she's somewhat like that too. You just think like there's always going to be a Dolly Parton. Yeah. Right? There's always going to be a Dolly Parton.
Yeah. Well, and the body of work is exceptional. Yeah. I have to pitch you and everybody listening a podcast which is called Dolly Parton's America, and it is just fantastic. And like the deal is that this reporter and author, his dad is a doctor at Vanderbilt Medical Center, and he treated Dolly and then became friends. So this guy interviews Dolly a lot and interviews a lot of the people in her world, and sort of takes this this take of she's really a great unifier. Like all kinds of people love Dolly, and like how has she navigated that? How is she like everybody likes her, right? Yeah. And it's so interesting. You walk away from it definitely loving and appreciating her more, and just like understanding like kind of the depth of who she is. And so I highly recommend. It's probably about 8 episodes. So if you start now, you've got time to listen to the whole thing before coming to 9 to 5. Yeah,
I listened to it when we were selling our house in Syracuse. We repainted our kitchen, and when repainting the kitchen meant I had to like sand all the doors and all the cabinets and stuff. So while I did that, I listened to this podcast, and it was fascinating. The one thing that I really remember was the riff that she had with Porter Wagner, and how they talked about that, and it was pretty intense. But she never once said anything negative about him, and never threw him under the bus. I mean, it was such a lesson in how to like graciousness and how to like really deal with people, and what a great person she is. Yeah. It is fascinating. It's a great, what's it called?
Dolly Parton's America.
Dolly Parton's America. Yeah. Get it on your favorite streaming service. And then buy a ticket to 9 to 5 at Music Theater Wichita. I was in New York when I was an actor, when 9 to 5 on Broadway opened. And it was choreographed by the same guy who choreographed Hamilton, Andy Blankenbuehler, who we had done Saturday Night Fever together. And at the time that it opened, I had stepped away from theater. My last Broadway show, Spamalot, had closed, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to do what every other actor does and get my real estate license. And so I was in New York working for a big firm called Douglas Elliman, and one of the guys from the production of 9 to 5, I think must have been, he was an ex-actor, and he reached out to me and said, we're looking for a place for Allison Janney, who is the actress who's playing Violet, to live while she's here in New York. Do you have anything in your, catalog of things that you're trying to unload? And I said, well, we do have this apartment on the Upper West Side on 97th and West End Avenue that's been on the market for like $1.3 million, and it's been on the market for, a good 6 months, and it's not moving. So let me see if they'll rent it. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, huge apartment with an outdoor space. And so I went to them and I told them it's Allison Janney, and they were like, oh, let's think about it. And so they rented it for her, I think for like $10,000 a month or something crazy. Yeah. So that was my claim to fame with my Allison Janney. I housed her. I found her housing.
Amazing. Allison Janney is worth every penny. And I also feel like that's a really good commercial for Wichita. Come to Wichita, where $10,000 a month would buy you a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
West Wing is probably my favorite TV show of all time. So I'm a huge Allison Janney fan, because she's one of the leading characters in that show. It also tells you how little TV I watch these days, because I think that was a mid-90s TV show.
She's on a new show too right now called Palm Royale. I think it's on, is it maybe Apple TV, or is it Apple TV? Yeah. And she's hilarious. I mean, the whole show is hilarious too. And she's great. She's mean in that one, but it's a great show. Kristen Wiig. Yeah, so 9 to 5, it's so exciting. And it's being directed and choreographed by our friend Eric Scotto, who was here last year and did Rock of Ages. And his energy is so fun for that show. It's a perfect show for him to throw his stint on it. Now, speaking of Dolly again, Dolly does make an appearance in the show at the very beginning of the show. So, come see Dolly on stage. Ish. Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
She's not actually traveling to Wichita as far as we know, but you're welcome. You can come, Dolly. We'd love to have you.